Thank you, John. Thank you. Ugh.
That, thank goodness it didn't hear me describe your melodies as melodic. That would be so
You
embarrassing.
you need a thesaurus, don't you?
I'm running out of adjectives. uh, Actually, that's one of my. It's one of the things I do when I'm songwriting. I have that process. I have the thesaurus up in a tab so that I can look up words that rhyme with and are synonymous with yada yada, so that it's a fun process. All right. So today, our topic for this week is changing the melody, um, which is quite an enjoyable one because at least I find it enjoyable because it really forces you to start to learn some repertoire, um, and and use it for inspiration. Um, I think there's an important point to be made in that the life of a soloist uh, is filled with plagiarism. um, and it's okay though. It's not like bad plagiarism. It's generally encouraged. You kind of want to take ideas and inspiration from wherever you can. And one of the best ways to do that is to learn how to play the melody of a song, and then make it your own, basically. Um, and so we've got a couple we're going to go through today, um, just to sort of get you started on that journey. Um, but it's a continuous thing as well. You should always be trying to learn new melodies and stuff when you learn the song, when you learn any song really, because it'll just keep on increasing that um, internal repertoire of ideas you can draw from. Um, so
Do you
what are oh
I'm
yes,
wondering,
sorry.
John, that just you and I we're making up as we go along. But you know how minor songs are always so much easier. Latin songs are so much easier to do this stuff. Let's if we
Totally.
started on Sway, it's the easiest one because Love Me Tender, I chose it because it's fast. That actually sometimes makes it harder, doesn't it? Whereas
Yeah, I
if
think that's really true.
yeah, if we started with Sway and did our exercises 1 to 6 on that, and it might
Hmm. Hmm.
that will make everybody feel quite confident. And particularly if we just do the A part, not the B part.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, yeah. Pull out the Sway melody then, and this will be good because I think a lot of you have probably learnt the melody for Sway already. Um, so that'll just make it all the more easy for you. Um,
Got us muted.
yep, that would be good if you can all be muted. Just gotta get out of some of these things in my tabs. Okay. So it's starts with that anacrusis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's pretty much the extent of it. Okay. Um, and if you get lost with what you're playing, sometimes it's easy to like sing along with it. It's often easier to sing a melody first than it is to play it. Um, and I like to think of my voice and my instrument when I'm soloing as intrinsically linked. It's really helpful to make a connection between them. Um, I was saying in the last course actually, just how like oftentimes when I'm practicing my soloing, I'll try and sing what I'm playing at the same time, um, or rather, I'll try and play what I'm singing more so, um, because that sort of forces it to be, uh, it forces it to be melodic, and it forces me to have pauses and breaths because I, it's it's not always the rule, but a lot of the best solos are almost emulating voices. I think that's kind of just a theory, but I I think that's grounded in some good evidence. So um, so we've got Sway. Uh, let me look at what the first thing is. Okay. First of all, I think we should just play through Sway together, and then we'll go through this checklist of ways to mess with it. So I'm gonna... Oh, Ken's here. Excellent. So yeah, I'm gonna go and share my screen so that you can play along to the backing track, and just get a feel for it, and then we'll go back and change everything up. Hey Ken, we're doing Sway, the melody of Sway. So pull that up and have a go. Share my screen, share sound. And we didn't have to record any backing tracks this time around, which was kind of a relief. Let's pull this up. Okay, so you can hear that. It starts off with the ka boom boom boom. So as soon as you hear that ka, it'll be like you have to start basically straight away. Okay, so do your best with that. If you miss it, it's alright. Everyone ready? Here we Right, that's enough of that, I think. I have to admit, the weirdest thing about that backing track is how it changes from a Latin to like a swung feel halfway through.
I'm
It's a
so sorry
bit odd,
about
but
that. I think I need to find another backing track.
that's okay. We'll make do. It's a good practice to force you to get that change. But okay. So how'd you go with the melody? Did you find it worked out okay for you?
I didn't even get to start.
Let's
Yes.
do it without the backing track. Let's do it without the backing
Totally
track.
confused.
John,
Okay. Totally confused. That's all good. I'm just gonna play it to you, and you can play along with me, and then I'll play some chords for you so that you can practice it without me as well.
I think the issue, John, was we were seeing your face and not your fingers too. Like we can only see your face, we're not got your.
Yeah, sure. I've been trying
Which is
to mess around
lovely,
with this.
which is lovely, but
Thank
I
you.
want your fingers.
Sure, I'll stand up this time so you can see. Okay, so first of all, remember it starts before the first beat. Basically, it's got that anacrusis. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 4, 4, 3, 4, 1. 3, 4, 3, 4, 4, 1. Okay, that's the first verse, and we're only going to worry about the verses. Let's not do the whole that whole bit.
Can I get everybody to, not everybody, some of you to move your camera so I can see what you're playing? Juliet, Catherine, and yeah. Tom. Yeah, great. That's better. Just so I can see what you're doing.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that's good. Sweet. All right, let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 3, 4. 3, 4. 3, 4, 1. 3, 4. 3, 4. Alright, and that's it. Okay, I'll play some chords for you this time and see how you go without me showing you where the notes go. Try and sing it in your head as well. If you know how to sing, if you know the melody of Sway, that can really help. So ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Yup, up, 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 up. Go around again. Yum bum 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 bum. All right. Is that a bit easier to follow? Have a bit of a better idea of how that goes? Yeah. And if it's not working out straight away, that's okay. We'll be playing this melody a lot over the next little while, so you'll have plenty of chances to mess around with it. Okay, so we're gonna work our way down this this list we have here. The list of, it's under messing with the melody, and there are 6 points to think about when you are doing that. Obviously, in a sense, you are plagiarizing the melody, but really it's transformative. Okay, so all of these things combined will make it so that it becomes your own thing. And this doesn't have to be just for Sway. Like, if you learn the melody for Sway, you don't just have to play it when you play Sway. You can use that melody in lots of other places as well, as long as they are in the same key and use the same scale and all that. Okay, so first thing on the list, add a bit of syncopation to the melody. Can anyone tell me what syncopation is? I like Anne's explanation. Without words, even.
Regular rhythm.
Offbeat.
Yeah, offbeat is a kind of syncopation, absolutely. Basically, yeah, it's the opposite of like a straight on the beat rhythm. If you syncopate something, then you take it from a steady on beat rhythm and you accent the beats in between, which might be the 1 and 2 and 3 and, or it might be 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4, you know, all those in between beats. If they're the accent, if they're the most important bit, if that's where you play the note, then it's syncopated. So obviously, really famous syncopation might be as simple as like a country offbeat strum is probably technically a kind of syncopation, but more so you see it in like jazz or blues or like Latin rhythms. Lots of syncopation there, and it's quite hard because it's far more natural for us to lean towards playing on the beat, but unfortunately it can get a bit boring to listen to and to play. For example, if I were to solo without any syncopation, which is a challenge, it's going to be a challenge, I think. Something like this, if I went... it feels like it's really not going anywhere. But as soon as you start thinking outside the realm of just on the beat every time, 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, I'm accenting those in between bits. Obviously, you couldn't see the uke very well then. Sorry, but you can hear what I mean. It makes a difference as soon as you take it off the beat. Then it becomes something far more exciting. So let's do this in the context of sway. There's a couple of ways to think about it. It's easiest when you have a backing track, because then you don't need to think internally where the beat is. You can have it just happen to you. The beat happens to you, and you can't do anything about it. So you can get in between it a lot easier, because you've actually got it there playing in your head. So what that means is you're going to have to stray away from the rhythm that you know sway to be, which can be a little tricky. So at this point, it's probably easier not to sing it in your head as much, because you're branching away from what the melody was. You're turning it into something new. I'll try and do an example of it. I'm not sure how well I'll succeed, but you might do something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So you can see I'm sort of pushing it and pulling it a bit, going back and forth, and that is what you want to try and do. You want to stray away from what it is.
Yeah, I've got and also I've got another recommendation now. We've already got a breath in the anacrusis. Oh, sorry. Right, we've got a breath there, so we can't. And so the syncopation is like, it would be. But the next bars, all the next 3 bars, we can put a breath in there, so it can be like. You know, it's like beginner's guide to syncopation. Put a breath in at the front of the bar.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. If you're starting from nothing, just don't play on the first beat.
It's cheap, but it's easy.
That's right, and it makes a difference. It really does. So yeah, let's I might even just play the chords for you instead of using the backing track, because it made it a bit tricky. So I'll play these chords, and we'll just go B7 to E minor. Don't worry about the melody of yup up 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 up, like the bridge bit. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Yup up 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 up. Quicker, make it slower. Yep, up, keep going. One more time around. How'd that go, everybody? Did you find you could syncopate it to an extent? feel free to unmute and talk to me about it.
Yeah, by the time I got myself sorted, I missed the opportunity.
Oh dear. Okay.
Yeah.
I got the rhythm going all right in my head, but
Hmm.
translating it wasn't quite right on the notes, although I got the rhythm going all right. So I missed a few. It was the notes more than anything.
Well, that's okay. And in this sense, the notes aren't quite as important anyway. So if you can mess with the rhythm, then that's what I'm hoping for. Jenny, did you have something to say as well?
Jane's advice about taking a breath was helpful. I was just shortening all the crotchets to semi-crotchets, so it just changes the rhythm a bit. Didn't change the notes.
Yeah,
No,
that's really good.
You don't need to change the notes at this stage. It was just the rhythm, so that's great.
Exactly, yeah. There's so much that can be changed with just the rhythmic aspect of soloing. It is probably even more effective in terms of making differences than different notes are. Okay, nice work, everyone. Oh, Ken, did you have something to say as well? I can't hear you yet because you're muted still.
Is that better?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Some of it, I with this sort of stuff, I just feel like closing my eyes and just sort of try to feel it through your body, and then try and respond to that. So it's something that's not necessarily a cerebral thing. It's a feeling in the gut thing that sounds okay. Now I'm a long way from there, but that's I think a key to this.
I think that's a really good point, Ken. Like, I mean, I tend to have a very scientific approach to it potentially, but a lot of it can be more of an emotional thing and like a physical. How does your body feel about this? Like, if you can follow your dance moves or whatever, I think there's a lot of plausibility in that you can almost trick yourself into doing it, when you think of it emotionally rather than as a bunch of facts and rules to follow. So I think that's really good.
I agree. It is a creative process, but what I would counteract with that is that we all need more tools in our toolbox. And that's what we're providing you with. And so sometimes, like for instance, in one of these exercises we're about to do, we're going to push you into an uncomfortable place, and it's that place that you find new stuff. And so I lived with a musician for 7 years who played the same frickin' song every night, because he had nobody to push him out of that place. And so for people here, this is we are pushing you. We are meaning to push you into uncomfortable places. It is our job.
Yeah, I mean, my bass teacher, she it was always a bit of a weird thing because obviously she would give me like the good feedback when I did well, but then there was always something I could improve on, which at first was quite hard for me because I felt like, oh, how am I ever gonna feel like I'm actually good? But in the end, it is something that really pushed me to strive for more, and to strive to be better. And I think that's important, like to have that mentality that you always want to be. It is like a constant uphill thing to keep on learning new stuff, and just make a little bit of time to put the practice in and to keep learning. So yeah, that's a thing worth mentioning. That's just a general musicianship skill, even more so than just soloing. Okay, so next step in messing with the melody is we're going to be adding extra notes into it. Okay, so we've done the syncopation, and now we add this next thing onto it. Basically, we stray away even more from what the melody was supposed to be. For example, I'll see if I can do something with it. bear in mind the notes that you know work. Obviously, this is in a position where you're not actually in a scale shape, but you know that all of the notes in this riff are notes that are going to work. So maybe mess around with those more than anything else. But if you really want to know, we're in E minor, probably closer to like E harmonic minor. So if you need to know that, then by all means, you can mess around on the E harmonic minor. But at this point, it's easier to just mess around with the notes you're using, which is pretty much just that. You could probably go up there as well. Okay, so I might do something like this. I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So I'm keeping the general idea of the melody, and I'm still using a lot of the same notes, but every so often I might add in, I might just go to a different place for a moment, or I might fill in the gaps in the melody, like I might walk somewhere. That's sort of like the specific term when you go step by step, you walk to a note, and so yeah, that's something to consider. Let's have a go at that, I guess. Any questions about that before you try and throw in some extra notes?
Okay, so let's take the second bar, which is B7.
Mm-hmm.
Are you suggesting we only introduce 3, 2, and 1, like those three, or can we introduce notes from E minor as well, like in the tab 3, 0, 3, 0, 3, 0 on the E string?
Yeah, well, any of the
Anywhere,
notes,
you don't care.
It doesn't
Okay,
matter.
cool.
Yeah, that's just what I did. I did that in order to make it sound more like the melody. Like I just messed around with it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But you could just as easily go like any of those notes there as well work just fine. So yeah, just have a mess around with it, and if you can keep that syncopation happening too, then that's always a bonus, because it's the combination of these things that'll really help it flourish. But just do what you can. It's much easier to practice skills one at a time. So yeah, there's no right or wrong. Just do what you can. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Ba, ba, ba. Keep on going. 2, 3, 4. Once more. Keep on going. Any report from that, everybody? How did you feel about that? Were you able to incorporate extra notes? Anne's a yes, that's good. Jenny as well. Yeah, awesome. Just a little bit, even a little bit is fine. You don't want to change every note, because then it's not even drawing from the melody necessarily. And actually, something worth mentioning is that at times I said to keep syncopating as well, but there are times when you change the notes that you probably want to keep the rhythm the same as well, because you're not just inspired by the notes, you're inspired by the rhythms as well. So that's just another thing worth thinking about.
Hey, John, for this song, again, we're a work in progress, John, but I feel like number 3 is not applicable to this, whereas number 4 is. You know what I mean? Number 3, fill in the gaps with extra motifs. I don't think they need extra motifs, but you could. I could be wrong. But the filling in the gaps with a few chords, that would be really useful on this one.
Yeah, I think I think filling in the gaps with another motif is not super applicable. So I think
exactly.
that's a good point.
Yeah. So let's jump to step 4, and particularly the B. The B7. That's this. Such a nice chord to help them out, because as
Absolutely.
we've just experienced with Sam, we've just had a class with Sam Leman, who's there's there's about 5 ukulele players in Australia that are just hot. Sam's one of them, and he's a really big fan of chords in improvisation. Really big fan of it. So I'll let you take the floor with that stuff, and we'll just jump to 4.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, Sam Leman makes some really good points about the benefits of chords in your improvising. And I think one of the big points he makes is that we're not a single note instrument. We're not playing a single note instrument like a trumpet or any of those brass or reed instruments. And so we might as well make use of that we have these extra notes to play with that can happen simultaneously. And so he does this in blues all the time, but I think it works here as well, that you can take the melody and then in the gaps play some chordy stuff. So for instance, I'll see if I can do something with it, but you could do something like this maybe. 2, 3, 4, 1. Whoops, sorry. So you can kind of take that space in the middle. If you play the right notes. So yeah, I probably went a bit too fast for myself there to demonstrate it well, but it's yeah, you can kind of do that little call and response thing there. So learn from my mistakes and don't play too much. Just do even just one strum is probably enough for that, and we'll also go much slower so that you guys can practice that.
And also, I'd like to put in the beginner's guide to improv, because sometimes people like John are too skilled to they can do too much. Do you know what I mean? As a teacher, they can do so much. Whereas for me, I'm the dummy's guide to improv. And, I would just see the minims in the music. Now, the minims are the hollow notes. And there's 2.5 beats there. Okay? So it's... I would just chuck in 1 chord. Or 2 chords. Like... Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd keep it. I'm a cheat. I look for minims and for semi-brevs, so they're the 2 to 4 notes. I look for those, and then I go, oh goody, I can put in a few like right? And people are so impressed. And so like, for instance, the B7 is just beautiful. It's a bar chord across the 2nd fret, and you've got a 2 3 2 2. It's so simple. So John, being a really skilled musician, he's putting in the E minor at the start of the bar and doing beautiful stuff. That's great. But for us dummies, we probably need to look for those big long gaps. You
Look
know?
for the gaps for sure.
Look for the gaps and just go. You know?
That's right.
And that's no offense, John. It's
No, it's
just
okay.
yeah.
I realized what I was doing is like I need to stop
Yeah.
doing quite so much.
Yeah.
It was like it was quite. I found that quite tricky. I have to be honest. So I think the lesson that I take from that is that this is definitely like a sometimes thing. Like you wouldn't, if you were soloing, you wouldn't do this on every beat necessarily. Well, you're practicing, sure, go for that. But I would, just like with harmonized scales, I'd save it for a special occasion, or if there's lots of space. You know, blues is great for it because you can use it to respond. You could go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. You know what I mean? Like you've got all that time to do it. So yeah, don't feel like you have to throw it in all the time. Now let's do it again. Let's do sway, and I'll go super slow, so that you have lots and lots of time to get through it all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Once more round. Just one more time. Okay. How did you guys find that? Yeah, a little iffy. This is, I think, one of the tricky ones for this song in particular.
Yeah, it is. And also, I don't know, John, I need to ask you this, but those extra chords I put in, they're like one really soft thumb thing, you know, one or two steps, or two steps. And they're a thumb thing. And the reason why they're a thumb thing is because they allow my hand to be in position for when I need to go back to melody. So the idea of doing a means you're out of position for melody again.
I think that's a really good point. Yeah, don't if you can avoid doing the shift in between, then that's really good.
Yeah, so that's you, Lee. Don't use your back of your fingernails for your chord. Use your thumb, because your thumb is king, it's queen, it's in position.
And I think also, nice, with with this song, it's kind of a lesson in like picking your battles, like in a sense. Like generally, if I was soloing in this song, I probably wouldn't throw in those extra chords. Just me personally, because I think it would mess me up. So yeah, pick the songs where you think it's appropriate. And that's totally a lesson I planned.
Can I ask, John,
Yeah, of course.
how much of the melody is it important to keep in when you're doing that?
Yeah, the truth is, it's really up to you. Like, it depends on how much you want to actually reference that particular melody. It depends on if you know, you might be doing completely random stuff and then just randomly throw in a bit of that song. You know, you might be chugging along going you know, you just throw in little bits. So yeah, with that, obviously right now we're trying to stick with the melody so that you know it well. But when you're actually soloing, the amount of melody you use is really up to your own personal taste. And Ken, you've unmuted as well.
Yeah. Oh, look, I was just saying that for me, slowing it right down would be, a way of trying to get my head around it. So when you were up to speed with it, I just completely lost the plot. So.
Yeah. And that's okay. Whenever I'm practicing something hard, I slow it right down as well. It's so yeah, you go at your own pace.
I love your question, Anne, and it's the improviser's quandary. How much do you want to reference the melody, you know? And you reference it too much, and it's don't reference it at all, and it's like blancmange. Like it's just a wall of noise, you know? Like it's a really lovely question actually.
So even if somebody else is, say, playing the chords, which in this one particularly would show pretty much where the melody is, you still want to have a bit of the melody coming in there?
Depends. I'm a bit of a I'm a bit of a referencer, but only a very light touch. And a really good friend of mine who's a fantastic improviser in Canada, she calls improvisation, she doesn't call it the icing, she calls it the icing sugar on top of the icing.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a really great thing. It's not heavy, it's such a light touch. And I think, yeah, so think of that. Don't think of being heavy, think of being super light touch.
That's good, thanks.
That answers a friggin' question
though. Yeah, it's yeah, no, it really is kind of a quandary. I think we're probably okay to move on to the next thing. Play the shape of the melody in a different place.
I like this one because this is really applicable to this song. Do you mind if I talk about that, John?
Yeah, of course.
So like, for instance,
by all means.
Yeah. So, for instance, instead of going now the shape of that melody is da 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 da. So instead, you might go. Or you know, so you play the shape of it, but you don't play it in the same place. And I probably might needs to be up here actually. No. That's an easier place actually. So the shape would start on the 5th fret of the A string, the D note. Da 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 da. Sounds beautiful, doesn't it? Sounds full of longing. Instead of doing da 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 da. It's a very easy, effective method, you know, is playing the shape. And that references the melody, and you immediately know, oh, that's sway, even though I'm starting in the wrong place. And, you know, you get all that longing and...
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And it goes to show how important the rhythm is again. Because that obviously the notes can change and then the rhythm can stay the same. And this is another example. This is a kind of sequencing, I think, which is in the next section of this. But this is probably the most important kind of sequencing in solos, when you take a shape and do it in new places. And this is also you can think of it in two ways. You can think of it in a diatonic sense, where you are going and playing the shape of the melody but still following the scale. And in a really freaky sense, you can also think of it more as a shape thing. So like a really famous like blues soloing technique is if you've got like a major third, they do this really cool thing where they go like, and it's like the same shape going down like semitones, and so it's not diatonic, but it's, you know, this really cool sound. And like obviously it's riskier because the notes aren't necessarily going to line up, but you could potentially, you know, like just go up and down a string. You've got all these options where you can move it around to new places.
The great thing is because John kept the rhythm of the melody all the way through that. You know what it's playing. You know what he's doing. In truth, like rhythm is king when it comes to improvisation. Rhythm is king and queen.
Yeah.
So when we go to move up the fret, where do you know to move to when you were talking about play the shape of the melody in a different place? So which fret, given it's, what do you say, key of E major?
Yeah, E minor.
E minor, okay. Which fret should we aim for here? Is there a place to go? Or you just have to know the sound of each note?
You need to be pretty aware of the scale that you're using. That's the hardest thing, is that because we're down here, we're not in our scale shape, so it's hard to know exactly where to move. But for this particular example, you do actually know the E minor shape up here as well. So you could, in essence, move up to where this shape is happening. That's probably the easiest option. But as you get to know the ukulele better and know your scales better, you start to know which notes tend to work better as well. And also, you don't have to move that far. Like, you could potentially also just move up like one note. If you could start it here and go... like it's the same rhythm, but I'm just going up like one note of the scale at a time. So, yeah.
And again, the cheats 101 beginner's method to improv is perhaps to hit the root. So we know it's an E minor. Oh, sorry, it's a B7. Sorry, it's a B7, and so I would probably hit and the first note is a B. Oh God, help me out here, John. So why would I go to an E?
Just because it's still in the key of E minor.
Yeah, it's still in the key. It's in the key of E minor, so I'd probably go to the root of the general key, is what I was going to say. Yeah, so an E is a 7th fret.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I improvise, I'm pretty much always aware of the key I'm in, absolutely aware of the key I'm in. And I'm thinking, this is okay, 101 beginners, boring guide to improv. Start, finish on root.
Absolutely. It is kind of a cheat, but it works. It does. But yeah, it is one of those things as well. The more you do it, the more you experiment, the easier that'll just keep getting, and you'll start to learn. I'm not going to get you to practice that though, because that's a bit hard, and also we have more things we want to do, so I want to make sure you have time for that. Now, I also want to talk more about sequencing, which is the final thing, and this is... I might be misunderstanding the definition of sequencing, but I consider it not just what we talked about there, which I think is like the true definition, but also not just changing the notes, but also changing the rhythm and stuff too. So, for instance, you could... it's all about development. Again, this is like quintessentially developing the melody. You could take it and make a certain section of it half the speed, or you could double the speed, or you could play it backwards, or you could play it upside down. You know, you've got all these options. When you have a melody to start with, you can I think of sequencing as the idea that you have all of these different ways to develop it, and it's a sequence because it's still the same melody. So with that in mind, if I play the melody here, 2, 3, 4, 1, I could go really slow and fast. Could go backwards. You know, you've got all these options to mess around with it. And sequencing, this idea of it kind of encompasses everything else we've talked about, in essence. It's just a more structured way of thinking about it. So does that sort of make sense a little bit?
I think of sequencing as changing the sequence, the order of the notes, changing the changing the rhythm of the notes. But I think the important thing about sequencing is it flows. It's a sequence, you know? So you're allowed to do whatever you do as long as it flows, and that means it sounds good. These are really tough concepts, guys. But if you always just remember, mess with the melody, find the melody, mess with it. And we're being very prescriptive about how to mess with it. But that's just because we're helping you out. If we just said to you, hey, mess with the melody, guys, just change it up, you'd look at it going, what the hell?
Where do you start even?
Yeah. Shall we get you to play, because my backing track is so bad, shall we get you to play Sway just one more time, and we just try a few of these things. We improvise at home with a few of these techniques.
That's right, yeah. Mainly consider changing the notes, changing the rhythm. Those are the two key aspects. Then it's just a matter of how do you change them. And that's when you start thinking about these other things. And of course, you can add chords in too if you like, but I don't recommend it for this song. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Keep on going. Once more around. Alright. Was that okay? Do you feel kind of successful with that so far? Somewhat. It's a lot to think about. It really is. Don't feel like you have to do everything, I guess is my advice, you know? It's still the melody of the song, and you still want it to be obvious that it's the melody of the song. So even though we have all the 6 different techniques here to use, don't feel like you have to use all of them all the time, or don't even feel like you have to use all of them in one song. As with all of this, if you put in that time to practice it, then you'll find that it does get easier to use. But yeah, hopefully hopefully this is a good starting point for you to start thinking about messing with the melody, so that you can try and incorporate that into your solos. Remember, this is just an aspect of improvising as a whole, but melodies are an excellent spot to find inspiration, because it's pre-made. It's like a pre-made thing that sounds good. It's just, all it is notes that sound good because of the order they're in. So yeah, they're perfect to draw from. Now I think, did we want to do another song and mess with the melody, and then we'll start talking about tension and release?
Yeah, let's do another song. I can't decide whether it's Love Me Tender or Autumn Leaves though.
I'm thinking Autumn Leaves because
Right.
it's diatonic.
Yeah, it's got more to work with, I feel.
So
It's
let's.
actually the most beautiful song to improvise on.
I love improvising on Autumn
love it.
Leaves. It's one of those classic jazz standards, that's just like, this is one of the easier jazz standards to solo on because it pretty much stays diatonic, but it is really lots and lots of fun. So this one's in D minor. If you can pull out the melody there, it's on the page as well. And yeah, just see if you can follow along with this tab. I'll play the backing track for this one for you, and yeah, we'll try and make our way through it, and then we'll try and mess with it. So here is
Don, sorry to interrupt.
the problem.
I've got a high G and this is for low G. Do we just leave those out?
Feel free to still play them. They just won't quite sound perfect.
Okay. Cool.
Yes, it's all good. Okay. Get ready. And just try and imagine that melody in your head as well. This one has an anacrusis too, so it'll go. Actually, let me just check how it does it. Okay, so you want to come in right after that first beat again. It'll go da. The autumn leaves, and then that first chord is the first beat. Okay, you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. How'd that go, guys? Did you get that okay? Yep, nods. That's good. Obviously, it's going to be a little tricky if you haven't played it before, but that's okay. The more you do it, the better you get at it. This one I actually think I actually find this one much easier to mess with the melody, because the way it's written is obviously so straight, which is how they do it a lot with the jazz charts. They write the melody really straight, and that makes it really easy to do more stuff with it. So even if I was gonna sing it, like even without the melody, I wouldn't go the autumn leaves drift by my window. You know, the autumn leaves. That's just it. Just doesn't feel right. You have you need to syncopate it basically, and you can mess around with it. You know, you go the autumn leaves drift by my window. The autumn leaves of red and gold. You know, so you wouldn't play it straight in general. So, and it's the same goes for when you play the melody. 2, 3, 4, 1. Oh, I'm adding in these other notes as well. You know, you've got all these options for moving around. And I actually think this one's an easy one to do it on. So I'm going to play it again for you, and I'd like you to try and mess with it. Mess with the rhythm, make it syncopated, mess with the notes, maybe throw some more in or take them out, come at a note from a different angle. Just remember you're in D minor, so use notes from D minor. Any questions before we go at it?
John, when we come in, would you mind just counting us in? Like, is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, then go?
It's going to be 1, da 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 da. So
Yeah,
it's right at the start, but I can count you in.
There's a
before
rest, but I mean, how many? I can see the rest on the music, but how many? Like the intro before we come in, I'm just not getting that.
Yeah, literally in the recording,
Yeah.
the intro is 1 beat.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it comes in really fast.
Rightio then. Be ready.
Be ready. I'll try and count you in before the recording starts, though I don't know how successful that'll be. Obviously, there's always some kind of lag or something. Anyway, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Autumn leaves. Nice. How about that? How did you guys find that one? Some nodding.
I just find following those backing tracks just a little bit, dodgy. I'll probably get a little bit ahead of the track, I think, but that's just me.
That's okay, Tom. As long as you're aware of it, I think that's the important thing. Like, if you know that it's happening, then you can work on it. Yeah, it's probably hard without the actual melody playing as well. Though I kind of don't want to put the melody in either because then it'll take away from your soloing. Um, yeah. Anyone else? Did anyone have a positive or negative experience with
Yeah, I struggled. So what you were saying is that you wanted us to add notes from the diatonic, D diatonic, to the notes that are already there to add in some extra. Is that what you were in essence saying?
Yeah, and I mean the notes that are there are pretty much in D, like they're pretty much D minor as well. So you can add in notes that are already there, if that makes sense. It's not like you have to add in a whole new note. It's just a matter of like, you can take notes and put them in a new spot, if that makes sense. Uh, Anyone else?
I found it really nice adding the chords in, and then I'd try and get back to the melody and get the notes wrong. But but it's a lovely one to throw the chords in as well.
Good point. Yeah, I think that would be a nice one for it.
I was also going to say that it's a nice one. See how you've got long held notes? So this is a really good song for adding in fills or chords in those gaps. So you might go. You're just adding D minor pentatonic notes into those gaps. It's sort of one of the easiest ones to improvise because you just mess with the timing a little bit. And then you've got all that gap to just... I mucked that up a bit. But you've got a long gap. Or, as Anne said, you've got the chord that you can chuck in there. So sometimes when you're at a 101 beginner improv level, choose 1 to 2 things you're going to do. Don't try and do everything. So for me, I would change, this is me, I would change the rhythm and I would possibly I'd chuck a few chords in on those long held bits or chuck a few notes of the chords. So I think it's worthwhile if you think about what you want to do and we try it again. And I'm wondering if we get John to play it for us because it's sort of easier when he plays live for us, I feel.
Fair enough. It might just be to do with these backing tracks.
Yeah, look, sure. And I take full responsibility for the backing tracks. I made them and I'm not liking them in this context. They seem to work. But I feel like they're not working. John and I will work on that. We'll create some backing tracks that actually work. But in the meantime, why don't we play along to John and think about changing your time. Well, okay, changing timing and adding a few more notes. You might be doing something else. You might choose some of the other stuff, the 1 to 6.
Yeah, I mean, I like I like changing rhythms and changing notes. Those are my favorite ones. Adding notes in. You could also do the sequence. This one could be nice if you go like stuff like that. Same rhythm, just putting it up a bit higher every so often. In fact, this song is kind of made out of sequences anyway.
This song is made of a sequence. You go D, E, F, then you go C, E, then you go B, C, D. It's all sequencing. And that's why we love it so much, because the human ear loves that.
Yeah, so that's a really good thing to take note of. Yeah, and don't despair if this is really tricky. Like, this is meant to be tricky. Like, it's this stuff here is even more so like the next level of soloing than pretty much anything else we've done so far. This is rejigging how you even think about it, kind of. So this, will obviously take some practice if you want it to super sink in. So yeah, let's do it again. I'll play you some chords this time, and then we'll move on to our next thing. And I probably need to pull up the chords for myself for this one, because jazz chords. Okay. We all ready? Let me just pull you up but minimize so I can still see you. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. The falling leaves drift by my window. The autumn leaves. I see your lips. Since you went away, and soon I'll hear but I miss you most of all, my darling. Whoops, making you all disappear for some reason. There we go. How did that work out this time? Anything to report? Yeah, Tom, you had it a bit better. Anyone else have anything with that? I saw a few nods before, so that's good. Just remember to keep practicing. As always, that's the rule. It's the rule for life with anything. Okay. Well, yeah, I think we can probably move on to the next thing now, which is kind of a fun topic. It's something for me that was kind of like it was like a big realization, and it's almost just a way to break music down to its barest bones, in a sense. And I've probably even mentioned it somewhat before to some of you, but it's this idea of tension and release. And the kicker is that basically all of music is just a constant interplay between tension and release over and over and over until the song is done. And I guess the best example of that is, I'll do it with chords you know really well, okay? So if you're in the key of C, then C is home. It's where you feel relaxed and everything feels okay, and you don't feel like you have to go anywhere at that point. But as soon as you move away from that tonal center, from the C, I might go to F. Suddenly it doesn't quite feel like home anymore, right? It feels like there's somewhere we need to go. As soon as I go back to C, the tension is released. Okay? I could go to G7, which is probably the most tense chord in C major. And you can feel that tension, and it's building, and then when I go C, suddenly everything's okay again, right? So at its barest bones, that's what music is. It's that interplay. What makes it interesting to listen to is when the tension when tension is created and then when the tension is released. So for instance, one of my favorite things is like tension is sort of relative, if that makes sense. Like on its own, this chord might seem pretty tense because it's got notes that are like close together. But if you compare it to like this, suddenly it's more of a release chord, if that, you know what I mean? Like, it's still tense, but compared to this other one, suddenly it's actually like it's where you feel more content. And you can consider this with melodies and with solos as well. Even if the chord's not changing, I can go up the C major scale even. That's probably the easiest way to do it. On C, everything's fine and dandy, but if I go to a D note, it's not so much. There's the tension, but then when I go to E, the tension's released again, okay? Go to F, we've got that tension again, but I could go to G and suddenly it's all back to normal. I could go to A, we've got some more tension, then I go to B, and we have even more tension, and then we finish on C, and the tension's released again, okay? So do you sort of see what I mean? Like, when you make it into a melody, you know, I'm using the major scale as an example because that's how you'd make a melody with those notes. But you can see that each note has like a relationship with the home key, and you can sort of use that to your advantage in your solos to create interest. Like you kind of want to use the idea of tension and release and consider the relationships of certain notes when you solo, because to make it satisfying, this is probably the big thing, to make it satisfying, you normally want to end on a note that releases. You don't want to end on a tense note. And that's not to say you should, that's not to say you shouldn't use tense notes, because you have to have some tension so that the release can actually happen as well. So yeah, it's more of an idea than anything else, I guess. It's sort of applicable in the sense that I want you to think about it when you play, and I want you to consider the relationships that notes have with certain chords. Like, obviously, each of these notes I played in the C major scale has a relationship with C that makes it want to feel a certain way. But if I was still in the key of C and played an F chord, then suddenly all of these notes in C major have a different relationship to that chord. And, you know, it's just, yeah, that's sort of part of what I'm trying to show you. Now, to make it solidified in your brain, I want to play a song with you. And the best way to show it is with Spanish Harlem, because you have that nice harmonized riff that you can do in it, which is all about tension and release. And I'll take you through it step by step first to show you what I mean. So here's the riff along with the chord. There's that C chord, and you start with these two notes, the C and the E, both really nice tension-free notes. Then the riff goes ya-da-da, and then all of a sudden there's that tension there, okay? Ya-da-da, ya-da-da, da. Less tension there, still a little bit. Ya-da, 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 ya. It leaves you hanging on, yeah? And of course it makes you want to go to that next bar. Ya-da-da, da-da-da, ya-da-da, ba, bom, ya-da-da. So let's play the song, and you can sort of mess around with that yourself. And I think that's let's just play it, and if I think of anything else to say about it, then I will. And I'll just play it to you rather than worry about backing tracks, I think. Okay, ready? 1. Oh, Jane, did you want to say something?
Oh, I just realised I'm muted. I'm just clarifying. You'd like us to do the riff 1, 2, and 3.
Yes, I'd like you to
and
do
the
the
chords?
riffs.
You're going to do the chords, and we can do the riffs, and we're listening to that tension release in that, aren't we?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and we can just do one note of those riffs, guys. You actually, for the tension, you actually only need one note, which is where the magic happens. It actually doesn't need to be the doubles, So just saying, and have a listen. Yeah, so have a listen for that tension and release, and realize that's what's pushing the song. Ooh, ooh,
That's right. It's constant. Okay, here's the chords. Have a play of those riffs and listen to each one, because when I play different chords and you do that riff over it, then the tensions will be different. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2. Start with the riff. 4. It's never seen the sun. It only comes out when the moon is on the run and all the stars are gleaming. That was a nice bit of tension there with that chord even. It's growing in the street right up through the concrete, but soft and sweet and dreaming. And again with that G7. You can hear it in the riff and you can hear it in the chords. Let's go again. There is a rose in Spanish Harlem, a red rose up in Spanish Harlem. Here comes the tension. With eyes as black as coal that looks down in my soul and starts a fire there, and then I lose control. I have to beg your pardon, and the release and the tension. I'm going to pick that rose and watch her as she grows in my garden. Last one, here we go. There is a rose in Spanish Harlem. All right. So how did that go for you guys? Did you get a chance to sort of hear the tension and release that was present? It is very much a way. It's almost like looking at music naked. Like you strip away all the fancy stuff, and it's just feeling tense and then feeling not tense.
It's a really interesting way of looking at it that I'd never even thought of. So it's a really nice extension to sort of looking at the
and so
whatever it is.
Oh, thanks, Anne. And the way I'm this is a conversation with John I'm having. The way you have a solo is you may start from home, go to tension and come back to home. And there's the arc of your solo. Would that be something you can do, John?
I think so, yeah. But I think as opposed to making it like a whole overarching your home, then there's tension, then you're home. It's the same as a song. It's gonna be a bunch of little ones. It's gonna
Yeah.
be home tension, home tension, home tension, like over and over and over, um, until and you can play with that, and you just play with that until the end of the song, and it really engages your ear, like. I mean, I notice sometimes when I see homework and stuff, people hang on notes that are maybe, or they like finish on notes that don't quite sound right, and you kind of want to be aware of that. Like you want to be aware of what notes you're landing on, what you're finishing on, or starting on, um, because yeah, that tension and release is important, and maybe you want to break the rules and you want to end on tension, and that's okay too. Like it's just a context thing, but it's something I want you to be aware of more than anything else, so that you can think about it.
Can I just add into that when you are completing the riffs, you've got 5, 7, 2, 3, and 1, 2, and they're quite discordant, which gives you a little break in the traffic. So you get to take that little extra breath of expectation. So what next?
Oh yeah, I love
Because
that.
the whole song is discordant, but those little meters just go, oh, and what next is going to happen? So it makes it quite interesting. But I find them very hard to play.
Yeah.
Not that I can't play them, but I find them hard to play, that they actually make sense in the sense of timing. And it should be just that you go there and you play it, but well, it's just the way I play. I'm not hitting them clearly, so it doesn't sound so good.
That's okay. I think stuff like that tends to just be like, if you want to get better with that, then you just put in the personal practice, and then you can do it. But yeah, I love how Spanish Harlem keeps you waiting for just a moment, like how it does that. And then it does it. I think that's really cool. And you can tell they were playing with that tension and release by making you wait. I mean, what do you think, like in like wub wub dubstep music, whenever there's a build up right before people start dancing, that's just a really long extended rise in tension until it finally releases and people can dance again. That's like a classic example. So.
And also the section B is full of tension. This one. Finally you get home, you're like, ah!
And it increases the tension by getting faster as well, which is an interesting thing. It's like it's not just the notes that it's on, but also like the intensity and the speed and stuff.
And that's something we can do in our solos, is we can be a little bit more aware of the way I look at the tension release stuff. It's not blancmange. You're actually manipulating people. You're not giving them something cherry ripe, It's not that. It's like, ooh, yeah. It's creating not a roller coaster, but it creates something, a response.
Yeah, creates a journey.
A journey, actually. That's more like it. That's a really hard concept, and John came up with it when we were writing this course, maybe 2 courses ago, and we don't expect you to get it, okay? Like, you're not going to be able to do it, but if you don't know it's there, then how can you ever do a good solo if you don't know it's there? So for your homework, all we want you to do is to mess with the melody on one of these songs. Now, I'm going to tomorrow get onto iReal Pro, which is how I've made these backing tracks, and try and make them a little bit more user-friendly And if that doesn't work, then John and I will record some stuff on Thursday with Mark so that you've got nicer backing tracks, right? Like, we've got to make something that's a bit easier for you.
Are you finding you guys use the backing tracks to practice with? Yeah? Good to know.
Yeah, the backing tracks are a lot of work for us, so it's good to know you use them. But we will make you nicer backing tracks, and we'll do it by Thursday night, basically, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So,
so that should be good. And pick a song, any of the songs we've done. Even we didn't do Love Me Tender, so you could do that one if you want. Or if there's another song that you know the melody of, then you could probably even do that if you wanted. It's easier to do it with the ones we've got, of course, but if you know it well and have a backing track for it, then by all means, you can do that other one. And as always, consider your expressive techniques. They're almost like an underlying thing that should just become part of almost everything you do. So if you can make sure some of that gets included, then that would be good. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this week. So thank you very much.
Ask a quick question.
Oh yeah, of course.
How are Thomas and I going to get our homework done on Thursday morning?
No.
I'm joking.
No, the tracks are there on Thursday night for you.
No, I know. We've been submitting our. I was joking. We've been
you mean you've
submitting
been
our.
submitting it so early?
Yes.
I'm sorry, you have to wait.
Oh
Don't
no.
go to bed until we've done our homework.
What you get for being a swat.
You can use the tracks that are there if you want.
No, I was joking. I was really joking.
Oh, okay, cool.
No. True enough.
Thanks,
you guys
John.
are
Thanks,
just,
Jane.
you're just too good. Getting
Rick.
it done so fast.
Yeah, thank you, John. Thank you for that, and thanks everybody for coming on this journey.
Yeah, and thanks,
It's
Jane,
been
as
really
well.
good. Thank you.
It was really awesome.
Thank you. See you later.
Yeah,
Much
thanks. It's been
appreciated,
fabulous.
guys.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Guys.
Thanks.
See you all next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
And
Last one.
you get the medal, Anne, for doing 2 courses in a row.
Well, not as much of a medal as you guys. I've got to say this to John. What a lovely way you speak to people, and it's just lovely, really lovely. You know, you don't disagree. You just, you've got a really nice way about you.
Oh, thanks
so
so much.
great, Anne.
That
It
almost
is,
made
isn't
me
it?
tear up in that moment. That's really sweet. Thank you.
No, it's true. It's true. I've been watching you. You just, you're doing a great job.
Yeah, you are, John. And Jane, as always.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's all right.
Well, thank you so
I'm
much.
very pleased that John's doing so well. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
Fabulous.
it's really good. And the backing tracks and stuff, like that just makes a huge difference, not having to rat through for backing tracks. It's really good.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
really
really
good.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like the backing tracks just need a better counting, you know?
Yeah. And that with San Lamont, that's the first time I've ever seen him, really. My God, he was great.
Yeah,
He's
he's amazing, isn't he?
He's good.
really good.
He's-
Yeah, really good.
So in Improv 3, we get a teacher in called Sam Laman, and he designed the course for us, and it takes you even to another level, which Anne's doing, because this is Anne's, so it's just something to think about for your future when this stuff is okay for you. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Anyway, it's really
Thanks
good.
very much.
See
Bye.
ya.
Thank you, guys. See ya.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, John.
That was a big effort. Sleep in tomorrow.
Yeah, I think I need it.
Oh, bloody oath.
And
I
this improv 2 in particular was quite a hard one, I thought.
Oh, I know. I didn't realize. I've never found it that hard in the past, and this time, I think it's about the backing tracks, about the fact that they didn't have the melody to hang their hat on.
Yeah. I was tossing up about whether I should have stayed on Sway so long or if I should have done the other ones more.
Yeah, maybe that's my fault. I just thought Sway would be so easy, but you forget.
I thought so as well. But
But you
yeah, I guess
forget
there were
it's
other
like-
factors.
You forget what it's like to be back there. That's the problem.